It's my understanding House Republicans narrowly passed a budget blueprint for this year's reconciliation legislation. I think it was a 216 to 214 vote. To talk about that, amongst other things, it is always a pleasure to talk to the good congressman. Hey, John, how are you?
Good afternoon, Matt. Thanks for having me on the show today.
Well, obviously, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. And as most people already know, John is not only a sitting congressman in the state of Tennessee, he's also announced he's running for governor. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. But, John, I want to talk about the House of Representatives passing this reconciliation legislation. Just to help folks that are out throughout Tennessee that haven't really been following this. What does this mean in terms of the process? Where are we in the process?
Well, I think this really clears the path for us to get into the serious work of crafting what's called budget reconciliation specifics. So in the days ahead, the weeks ahead, the various committees in the Congress will take up their part of this and craft a very specific legislation to implement what will at a minimum be $1.5 trillion in budget cuts over the next 10 years, which is not enough, frankly, to completely get us back on track, but I think is enough to make the statement that we're getting this started. And so this budget resolution is kind of the prerequisite for that. The House had passed a version of this 4 weeks ago, and the Senate finally got to this work over the weekend, and their version is a little bit different from ours. But they have set a different minimum, which was kind of an embarrassingly low $4 billion as opposed to our $1.5 trillion. But at the end of the day, nothing precludes them from making the same cuts that we do. And so earlier today, Leader Thune came out and said that, that essentially they were committed. The president assured House leaders and some of our holdout members that the White House is committed to, at a minimum, $1.5 trillion in cuts. And so this really sets the stage then for us moving forward and crafting the specific provisions that will make those cuts and, for the first time in history, really make real cuts to the future spending of this country and get us on a track, hopefully, that we can then build upon to get our budget and our fiscal house in order.
Congressman Rose, obviously, I appreciate you talking about the cuts. I think it needs to be a national priority, and thankfully it is now with this president in the White House and a majority in the House and the Senate, a Republican majority in the House and the Senate. But I know a lot of folks are thinking about the tax cuts that went through in 2017, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Part of this is an effort to make those either permanent or at very least extend them, correct?
That is right, and certainly I'm an advocate for making them permanent because, the last thing we want to do is set the stage for having another big showdown, 5 years from now or whenever it might be. And we all know that when you provide that assurance of some level of permanency to the business community, then small business owners can make decisions about how to invest and how to grow their businesses. If you know that you've only got a five-year window or some limited period of time, then you're not going to make the long-term decisions that would be the best for your business and the best for growing the American economy. And so I think we should provide permanence here. These are tax cuts that we will be extending. And so, if we don't get this done, then, 80% plus of Americans will see their taxes go up dramatically. It would be the largest tax increase in American history. So we simply have to get that done. And then we also, though, have to make real cuts to our spending. We've got $36.2 trillion plus in debt. And that's, leading to, with the current high interest rate environment, spending $1 trillion a year just on interest. And we can't sustain that. That ultimately drives us into economic disaster for every American. So we've got to make some serious cuts, and we're prepared to do that. And we've outlined what this budget resolution does is outline where those cuts will come from. And I think actually we can do better. And the recent evidence is that the Congressional Budget Office has been busy at work scoring the suggested cuts that we're going to make. And the good news is that the savings are going to be even bigger than what we had anticipated. So I feel good about us accomplishing this goal.
Congressman, obviously you're wearing multiple hats nowadays as a congressman, of course, and as a gubernatorial candidate. And I'll ask you this question in regard to both. part of your area of expertise, and I know you've been talking to the people of the state of Tennessee about this, is agriculture and farming. How do tariffs and how does all of this tariff negotiation impact the farming community in the state of Tennessee and across the United States of America? And what would your advice be, or what do you offer as advice to those farmers and the AGA community that they're worried about the potential fallout or impact within our farming world?
Well, so I think we have to take stock of where we are. In this last 4-year period during the Biden-Harris administration, we've seen our country for the first time in my lifetime actually become a net importer of agricultural or food products, which is just unconscionable, inexcusable. And that happened because the Biden-Harris policies, frankly, left us with fewer and fewer markets for our agricultural products, and basically decisions that made the cost of producing domestically go up dramatically as they limited access of farmers here to critical inputs and labor and other resources that are necessary for agriculture to thrive. And so I think President Trump gets that. He will be all about opening markets. He did that in a major way during his first term, and so that's where the tariffs come in. We've got trading partners all around the world, friends and foes alike, who basically restrict access to their markets, and then we welcome their products into the United States. And they are products we can produce here domestically, and we should be producing them. And so the president's hard line on tariffs, and of course he talks about it, and the press doesn't always pick up on the non-tariff barriers that are out there, but there are all sorts of phytosanitary restrictions that our trading partners put on various agricultural commodities that keep our products out kind of in a bogus way. Some of that's done by tariffs, some of that's done by non-tariff barriers, and the president understands this. His people understand this. They'll be trying to pry open these markets that will be good for farmers ultimately. In the short run, there's going to be some give and take, some retaliation from countries like China and maybe others that make it difficult, and there could be some rough times ahead. But the president's also made it clear and demonstrated during his first term that he will step up to the plate and give farmers, he will have our farmers back, and he did that in the first term, and I think he'll do that again here.
Congressman, always good to catch up with you. We'll have to leave it there. Our time is out, but we appreciate you coming on the show with us, talking about the tariffs, talking about the trade talks, talking about other things, and we'll do it again very soon. Take care, Congressman.